Hi babies, it's Chloe from the ReiQueer.com and welcome back to the ReiQueer Pod. For those of you who are new to the channel, who are new to the podcast, my name is Chloe. I'm a Reiki master, equity consultant, and community educator, and my whole purpose behind this podcast is showing a less sanitized, more raw, more honest view of what it looks like to be a messy person working in wellness, doing the human thing in 2025. If you're a returning listener, welcome back to the pod. Today's episode is all about redefining professionalism. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was going back and I was listening to last episode and I was listening to the way that I was describing my views on professionalism. And not going to lie, I did nibble that, but there was something that I said that I really don't agree with. And I was kind of like, girl, what the are you talking about? So I said something along the lines of unprofessionalism is acting out of alignment with your values, but I actually don't know that I think that that's true. I do stand behind everything else that I said though. But as we were cutting it up in the editing floor, I realized this is such a great opportunity for me to actually dig deeper into what professionalism is and isn't, because I have so many thoughts on this. As someone who fancies themselves as very much a young professional, I feel like I have so many things to say on this topic because I've been working since I was like 15 years old. I've had so many jobs all across the spectrum. I'm talking 9 to 5 cubicle, corporate, desk job, all the way to nonprofit community-based work. So I've worked in a lot of different environments and I've been able to observe how different leaders, how different supervisors, managers, leadership teams in general go about professionalism and the things that they have brought with them from older generations and the things that they've seemed to consciously not bring with them and how this impacted our overall environment. So I first want to start us off with a base level understanding of what professionalism even is. You can think of professionalism essentially as your attitudes, behaviors, and appearances that is deemed as appropriate while at work. So whether you're at a workplace or working from home. Before I dive into this, I do want to say I believe in professionalism 100%. It matters so much. So this is not about to be a conversation about how we need to throw professionalism out the window, but more so a more nuanced take on what actually makes sense in this year, 2025, to practice in the workplace. I think my biggest gripe with professionalism in its most traditional form is really thinking about who defines what is and is not appropriate, and in what social and historical context did all of this come to be. It's my opinion that a lot of what is baked into the rules, so to speak, of professionalism came from a time where things were just different and the values and social norms and customs that we had were different and came from a place of colonialism, came from a place of these social norms that we were all expected to adapt into. And now in the professional setting, which is even more structured and more of a system, we have all these rules that just honestly don't make any sense. So to highlight this, I want to focus for now the conversation on the umbrella term of the dress code and really get into that. I feel like in the episode before this one, I was able to share a lot of my thoughts in terms of where the context comes from of these archaic professional rules. And so I'm going to touch a little bit more specifically on dress codes right now. And then we're going to talk about what actually is unprofessional. So there'll be a bit of a flow here, don't worry. Okay, so let's start off with a classic. No hats in the workplace.
Like, it's not the vibe.
Now, this rule is a historical relic. It's a trickle down of a social norm that existed a very, very long time ago where it was thought to be respectful to take your hat off. And basically, there was something around having the head covered versus uncovered that dictated if you're in a formal or informal situation. So if you were to walk in a home or if you were to walk in a church or a place of worship, you'd be assigned to take it off. If you're asking me, I feel like this rule is quite archaic. And hear me out. I feel like we are so baked into this rule now, even so that we are not questioning why it's disrespectful. So I really think it's become one of those things that's considered disrespectful just cause that's what it's always been. But if we zoom out a little bit, and if you just think about what is literally happening, what is actually disrespectful about having your head covered or not covered in your place of work? Now, if we're talking in the context of a cultural custom or norm or a place of worship, I totally understand that. But in the context of work, I just feel like that's a chop. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. I'm so sorry. It doesn't matter. And I hate that some people are still bound by that rule because who gives a if you're wearing a hat? Oh my God. In a similar vein, wearing jeans on Fridays. You can't wear jeans at the office, but you can wear them on Fridays.
I'm so tired, child. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
Let me just say this. Work clothes are a scam, okay? I feel like there are obviously some workplaces that require certain uniform or certain gear in terms of safety. That makes a lot of sense. But if we just zoom out a little bit, this really shouldn't be a thing. And if you're asking me if I'm just theorizing on this, I feel like this division of like work clothes and casual clothes is such a scam. One, because you have to buy a whole other set of clothes, but I think it points to a larger issue, which is that society as it is in North American context, at least in the workplaces that I've been a part of, and that being, traditional corporate 9 to 5, but also just across the board. I feel like we have been conditioned with these rules that genuinely do not matter, but what it points to is a larger issue of how in the workplace, individuality and expression through clothing and expression through the way that you look is not valued. That is inherently considered unprofessional in some places. And I feel like that is just the way that is set up is because you're not meant to be regarded as an individual human expressing themselves and existing as such. You are meant to be a utility. You are meant to be a service or a cog in the machine, so to speak, which is why they're requiring us to really show up and perform professionalism by having all these random arbitrary rules about which types of fabric we can wear on which days. Like, guys, come on. It's so stupid. My hot take, if I had it my way, dress codes across the board would be completely abolished.
Death to all of them.
I really, truly think we should be able to dress however we want at work, unless your work would be directly affected by the outfits that you're wearing. Individuality and expression through clothing should be such a norm, and we shouldn't have to perform professionalism like this to each other. I just think it's just so outdated and so old school. And I feel like that's one of the reasons I love this certain era that I've entered in my working life, where I'm so lucky to work with organizations and companies that don't have these weird attachments to these archaic rules that make no sense. And it's fine because we're not defined by what we wear and we're all showing up as professionals. I've been yapping this whole time about what unprofessionalism is not. But let's get into what it actually looks like. Starting off strong, you should already know this is top of the list. Be on time. This, let me tell you, is rich coming from me, but I have learned over and over. I've learned the hard way. I have embarrassed myself. I have up opportunities for myself in my younger years by not locking in, by double booking myself, by not being on time, by not planning ahead. Poor time management at this point is a skill issue. The way you can make sure that you are upping your game in this specific arena is by aiming to be early, not on time. Trust me, that for a bitch like me, that's what I need to actually be on time in the first place. Aim early. Experiment with aiming to be there 20 minutes, 15 minutes early. My hot take, I'm a little strict on this, especially when you're meeting online. You should be no more than like 1 minute late. Girl, log into that Zoom. In that same note, being disorganized to the point of inconveniencing yourself and others, which is another key part of time management, is massively unprofessional. We have got to get it together. The trick that I have found as someone with a mysteriously undiagnosed mental illness that may or may not be rampant unmedicated ADHD is that you have to work with yourself. All right. You have to work with yourself. If you know you're a procrastinator, if you know you like to do something silly before locking in, whatever it is that frustrates you the most is where you need to focus the most on and just work with yourself. So if you know that you have a tendency to double book yourself, put everything in your calendar. If you know you have a tendency to forget things, write everything down. Whatever it takes to be organized, think of yourself as your own personal assistant. You know you best. You know what works. You know what doesn't work. Whatever you need to do, writing sticky notes, setting alarms, setting reminders, do what you need to do to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. A big part of this is also capacity management. Do not take on more than you can. Do not volunteer yourself to take on more than you can actually manage. Know thyself, work with yourself. I think when people are working with internalized shame around how they have to process things or get through things, if they are frustrated at their way that they have to move through the world, especially in comparison to other people, when it seems that other people have it together, can just do things, and for them it takes a little longer. I am you, you are me. I am one of those people. I totally get it. But you have to think of yourself again as your own assistant and work with what works best for you, and make sure that you are saying yes and no, not from a place of what you think you should do or what you wish you could do, but what you actually can do. It all starts with self-acceptance, which I know doesn't seem like it would relate, but it totally does in this context. Speaking of things that might seem to be irrelevant in the workplace but totally aren't, the next thing I'm going to say is mind your triggers, know your triggers, learn your triggers, because there will be times in the workplace where you might get worked up, you might get confronted, you might even in extreme situations be antagonized. And I'm going to tell you right now, a workplace crash out is never cute. Cussing out your boss, we can't be doing that, y'all. There are so many ways to get our point across and be firm and have boundaries and not allow disrespect without completely losing it. So when I say mind your triggers and learn your triggers, I say that because if you can already think of situations that could get you to a level 10 in the workplace, then that means that you have that foresight to plan around that. Making sure that we are managing our emotions, especially emotions that might feel disproportionate to the context that we're in. I hate to say it, but for people like you and I who might be from marginalized communities, people who might be queer, people who might be racialized, people who already have the odds stacked against us in the workplace. Look, I get it. I'm not saying that you should be accepting microaggressions or taking disrespect, anything like that. I'm just saying that, vent to your bestie. Don't lose your shit at work. Nothing is worth jeopardizing your career or your professional representation. Even if it looks like taking it on the chin and writing a strongly worded email later, that's totally fine. But just making sure that your emotions are in check. The last thing I want to talk about is poor quality control. If you're asking me, this is one of the biggest no-nos, no matter what you do for work. Whether it is you're providing a service, whether it is you're making or selling a product, whether you're a part of a team, no matter what it is you're doing, quality is everything. Never phone it in. Now, I notoriously have had jobs that didn't really challenge me very much. However, that still didn't mean that I wasn't going to show up and kill it. You know what I mean? So I feel like if you have the type of job that doesn't take a lot out of you, first of all, I love that for you. I love that your labor isn't draining you. But I also feel like that should not be an excuse to not do your best and to not actually ensure that there is quality in your product, in your performance, or in the experience that you're giving other people by interacting with you, especially in the case of people who work in community. Even if you're not selling a tangible thing, for example, for someone who works in ways that I do, where we are selling services or we are putting together materials or we're putting together workshops, making sure that you are giving people something that has amazing quality to the best of your ability. I do not want to go to a workshop looking at like tiny ass, ugly ass font over hideous backgrounds. I don't want to see you umming and awing your way through your presentation. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds mean, but that is how you lose your audience, and that's how you lose the interest of people who otherwise really would have enjoyed your work because the quality is not there. All right, so those have been my views on professionalism. What I love so much about working and being an adult in this era is that you really get to decide what you're taking with you and what you're leaving behind. There are things that we have been taught growing up that are so important and so integral to the way that we understand the world and move in the world. And there are things that actually did more harm than good. And I love it when we can individually decide for ourselves what we are leaving behind and what will come with us. As always, I write an accompanying blog piece per episode. You can check that out at ReiQueer.com. You can also head there for any services, any questions. Please send me an email or a DM. Leave us a rating, send us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe to our channel, let us know how we're doing. It is still seminar season. Head over to my Instagram or to the ReiQueer.com under the events tab to see what we're up to and what is left. All right, until next time, everyone. Bye.